Welcome, welcome, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hello. So good to see you guys. Awesome. A couple of you guys are already throwing in the chat that you want to be coached, and you're spot on. That's exactly how it works. I'm getting a couple private messages too. Just want you to know that I'm seeing those and you will be added to the list. Awesome. For those of you who haven't met me yet, my name is Jenny. I'll be coaching you guys today, and I would love to just remind you of what this setting is. This group call is an invitation for every single one of you, all 16 of you who are here, which will probably double in size over the next 20 minutes or so. But there is something for you here today. There's something for you to grab onto. There's something for you to grab and apply to your life. Hey guys, you're so sweet. I see your chats coming in. I love the love. Um, but yes, just want to remind you that you can open up your heart and your spirit a little bit today. You can grow in trust. You can bridge some connection here because God is going to show up and encounter the ladies who get coached. And his truth and his love, the fact that he shows up for other people is for you as well. I'd love to be hearing from you in the chat as well. I'm going to do my best to be engaged here as present as possible, but also responding to your chat. And then I just want to remind you guys, if you have been coached in the last 3 days, just to put a pause on today and create some space for some other ladies to hop on and give you guys plenty of time to digest what you've been given. But otherwise, I'd love to just invite you into some connection so you guys can close your eyes. Take a deep breath with me. And I would love for you to imagine the world the moment before light entered. There's dark vastness, there's bigness, but it's unknown and it's hidden. It's God's biggest secret that he's ever kept until a moment when he chooses to turn the light on. And his light fills every end of the earth. I just want you to imagine the kind of creator that's capable of that. And I'd love for you to just have a couple words come to mind. What kind of God are you imagining right now? What kind of creator are you connecting with? Some of you are sharing. I love to hear that. I'd also love for you to imagine yourself next to that creator. What do you notice about that fun pair? What do you notice about that partnership? I just want to imagine or have you imagine that both you and the creator are made of spirit. You have something in common with that big God. He gave it to you as a foundational thing to connect on, an entryway to commune with him. And even if you feel far or he feels way too big to be your friend, you both have a spirit. And if you're engaging with the spirit now, I'd love for you just to say, hey, hey, spirit, hey, Holy Spirit. And if you're not there yet, just say hey to the creator that you could picture and connect with. I'd love to pray for us while we're in this place. God, thank you for your bigness. Thank you for your creativity. Thank you for your light. Thank you for whatever headspace you were in, God, when you created this earth. One of the coolest masterpieces that we know so far. God, and thank you for our spirit. Thank you for the thing that you gave us that is in common with you. Thank you for normalizing yourself by giving us things that we can relate to. And God, for everyone on this call, would you just engage their spirit? Would you bring forward their spirit? Would you create safety and a space for those spirits to come and flow? Take center stage for a moment. Whatever that spirit knows that you would like the rest of us to catch up to today in our soul and in our flesh, it just align with you, God. We just agree with what you want to teach us today. We come with open hearts and open hands to receive from you, God. Would you just show up in the big creative ways that you normally do? We love you. We can't wait to learn from you. In Jesus' name, amen. So fun. I totally didn't have any of those thoughts before we started, but that felt really fun for me. So thanks for riding that wave. I'd love to hear in the chat some things that you felt or thought towards the creator and that you felt or thought towards your partnership with him. And while you guys are typing those in, Katie, you are first. So come on up, girl.
Hey, Jenny. Hey, guys. So I don't fully know, I'm changing over to speaker view. Okay. I don't fully know like what I'm needing today. I guess I kind of want to walk through what's been going on this last week. And with triggers with me. So as of like last Saturday, I was just, yeah, like in a really just kind of nonstop triggered place. And when I first started this program, I gave up alcohol. That was one of the reasons I joined this program, was to break that, like any addiction, any like, cycles with it. I've learned a lot over the last 2 months. So I had cut it out for like the first, I don't know, month or so of the program, and then reintroduced it. And yeah, I've been turning to it a lot, which brings up a lot of shame, and I've been sharing it in the group. But I've learned a lot about it too. And so as of like even like Saturday last weekend, I ended up binge drinking. And then Sunday, I was like, I'm getting really stuck in like judgments. It's like all of this, it's like literally that's what keeps happening, is that I've learned that like pretty much every thought, feeling, sensation, emotion, everything that's coming up, even subconsciously, I'm automatically forming a judgment about it, and then I'm reacting to it. And then I go down a rabbit hole, and like that's a trigger. And so I ended up on Sunday, I've been posting about it. I found an app that allowed me to become more mindful. And Jenny, like your coaching, I don't know if it was last week or whenever we talked last, you mentioned kind of stepping outside of a trigger, getting in touch with my body, and then like being able to come back in. And so I was able to do that on Sunday, and it was really powerful. Monday, I had like the best day that I have had in years. Years. Like I was outside, I felt joy, I felt connected to hope. I was literally like taking in the sounds and the textures, and because what I was able to do in the mindfulness practice that I was doing is like a thought came up, an emotion came up, something like that. And I literally would just be like, oh, that's a thought. Oh, that's a feeling. Oh, that's an emotion. Instead of immediately reacting to it. And I noticed that I react because of judgment. Okay. So that was great. Then yesterday, I got really overrun, really overrun. And that's where I'm like, I guess wanted to process through this and talk through this. Like, it was like I don't know how to explain this right, but yeah, like I just kept getting triggered yesterday, and it's like I couldn't step out of it. And so I'm not sure if I was just really needing a lot of maybe validation and compassion yesterday, but it's like what happens in my mind is it's like if I'm feeling constant judgment and criticism to every like thought, feeling, emotion, everything, it's tremendous pain. And I used to cope with food, and that was a great release. But then it's like when I discovered that wine or alcohol would it literally like the thoughts might still be there, but my physical response to it is numb. So it makes so much sense. I have so much compassion for myself. No wonder I have been abusing it. If like I have been in this constant state of judgment about everything. But yeah, so I guess I just wanted to process through like what happened yesterday. And I noticed even by like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was like so triggered that it's like literally my brain goes right to, well, okay, so now I'm going to be checking out tonight. It's like this premeditated, but it's also subconscious. Like once, you know, my husband's done with work and the kids are settled and all that, he's going to take them outside and I'm going to get to like numb these feelings. So that's what I did. Um, and it's just really, really frustrating because it was like, as of Monday, I had this glimpse of hope. I had this glimpse of total understanding and compassion, and just like, it makes so much sense why I've been partnering with this, but I don't want to partner with it anymore. It was like I stood up in the cycle, like you talked about before. Um, yeah, so I want to let you talk. I also had an encounter last night. I'd like to share about it too, but yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Maybe share about your encounter. I've been writing my questions as I go, so
Okay.
go for it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I drank like over a bottle of wine. I actually came on a live in the group. I'm sorry, ladies, whoever listened to me. It was awful. I was like drinking and I'm just like, like just I don't know, all this stuff coming out. I ended up deleting it. Made a new friend through it though. So that was kind of fun because she saw me in it. But yeah, so then at like, it's like I feel numb for a while, and then I go to sleep and I wake up throughout the night and I physically start feeling like I got hit by a train, and it's horrible. And so I don't even know what time in the morning it was, like maybe 3, 4 in the morning. And I've been like, when I've been drinking like that, I've been like inviting God into it. And I'm just like, God, like a few nights ago, I was like, I don't know how to be loved here. What do I do to be loved here? And he's like, you just be. And I'm like, no, like, what do I do? I don't know how to do that. And then last night, I had this like visual of me like adult Katie, like me today, yesterday, laying on the floor, just lifeless, empty, drunk. I was holding an empty wine bottle, just splayed out on the floor, like totally hopeless, totally just like, I can't do this anymore. And recognizing that like food used to be my security blanket, used to be the way I comforted myself. Wine became that. Um, Probably like 7, 8 years ago, outside of 2 pregnancies. Um, and so it became my security blanket. And so I had this visual of like God, Jesus, forming and making and creating this blanket for me. And he was literally finishing the edges. And I actually sew and I crochet and stuff like that. So I really appreciated the detail he was putting into it. And then he took this big blanket and he scooped me up and he held me in his arms, kind of cradled like a baby, but it was actually like super romantic because it was me as an adult, and he's literally just like this big, strong Jesus man, like holding me in his arms. And I was just like, and I was still holding onto the bottle, but I was like lifeless. I was limp in his arms, but it was like I could feel, and I just expected him to drop me because I'm like, how can you hold me? Like, you know, like, and he did. He was so strong. And I had the bottle though still in my hand. But in that encounter, I was able to like actually feel my body. I was able to feel like my chest against his chest, and I was like my arm around his shoulder. And I don't remember everything he said to me, but it was like this invitation that like he wants to be my security. Like I don't need it anymore. And I do remember just letting go of the wine bottle. I don't know where it went. I don't know if it shattered. I don't know what happened to it, but I was able to let him embrace me. And that was super powerful because most of the encounters that I've had with God, I've been a child. I have a lot of trouble even with my husband, with him touching me, with physical intimacy, with being hugged and held. Um, I've had a lot of trouble with that. I've had a lot of trouble in encounters with that. And so to have that, it was really powerful. Um, it was awesome. But then yet today, I'm right back to wanting to partner with shame and judgment and control to stop the drinking. So that's where I'm at.
Wow, that encounter. I have full body chills, and I just think that that is so incredible. He wants to be in between us and our boundaries, and in between us and our coping mechanisms and whatever we do to protect ourselves from the world. He cared about you feeling your body in that moment. And I think that that's just so incredible, such a beautiful display of how just intimate he can be. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so, so glad that that was your experience. Yeah. Um, so there are a couple things. First of all, from what you shared about Monday, and just being connected to hope and not having triggered responses, the thought that comes to my mind is cool processing cognition. Add that to your list to research and nerd out with me on.
Wait, hold
It
on, you
is
froze.
essentially the opposite is hot processing. Oh no, am I back?
Yeah, can you repeat what you just said?
Shoot.
I'm sorry. Was that my connection or I don't know? Okay.
No, I think it's mine. I'm gonna turn my hotspot on.
Okay.
Let's see if it works. I was nerding out with you, Katie, about cool processing cognition and telling you to add it to your list of things to research and just connect with other fellow nerds on.
Cool.
Okay, my hotspot's not
Like
working, so I'm gonna
cool,
do my
like
best,
see,
but keep letting me know if I freeze.
will you put it in the chat? I want to make sure I got it right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I just did my hotspot too, so that should be better. Cool processing cognition. Okay, and the opposite of cool processing is hot processing, which is the umbrella that your triggered states fall under. And so when you're responding to life and you are connected to yourself, but you are not triggered or explosive or shutting down or any of the flight or fight responses, it's possible you could be in cool processing, which is so fun. I think it's tied to true self, which you have also touched on with your studies of IFS.
Mhm.
And so just freaking enjoy that Monday happened, that there was some potential cool processing, that there was some potential connected to your true self, because that is such a freaking amazing place to be. To be connected and not triggered is so fantastic. And I'm really happy for you. And I so hear your heart. You're like, okay, well, but I'm back into a triggered state.
Yeah.
So yeah, I I want Monday and I want that encounter that you had with God to be building blocks for you. Like, okay, I can stack those things on the belief that I'm capable of being connected and not triggered, that God's capable of encountering adult me and helping me.
Yeah.
Um, that will snowball. I promise that will snowball. And it will continue to build and it will continue to mount. And pretty soon, a few months down the road, a few years down the road, you will find yourself not even remembering that you used to struggle with these things.
Wow. Well, that's hopeful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. And then I just have a couple of thoughts that I wrote down from what you shared. Is it okay to run down some of those and hear what you think? Okay.
yeah, let me write something down though,
So,
'cause I have a follow-up question and my brain's
okay.
not working very well.
You
And
can
I just
also ask
forgot
it.
it.
I have my thoughts.
I just forgot it. Okay, just keep going. Oh,
If it comes back, just interrupt me.
okay, I'll write it down if okay. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So you were sharing that judgment is involved in your triggered response. And so um, it sounds like on Tuesday or maybe even Monday night, I'm not sure the exact timing, but you started to feel overrun.
Yeah.
And then you also made another comment of just like, okay, well, when my kids can finally go to bed, when my husband is finally here to help me, then I can go and numb out. And so if judgment is all wrapped up in your triggered response and you're feeling that come in during times when you're overrun, I can hear that your heart is just like, oh, I can't wait for him to come home from work. Oh, I can't wait for him to help me put the kids down because then I get a moment to check out. And I think that that's probably a response to the feeling overrun,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure if the current coping mechanisms are quite comprehensive enough to give you the rest that you really need to calm being overrun. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, for sure.
Totally. So I think what I want to just unpack a little bit together with you, Katie, is what about being overrun? I would like to focus on that just a bit. What's inside of that for you?
Ooh, that's a good question. So, yeah, and I mean, I've been unpacking so much of my dad pain too, and I know that how do I want to explain this? Like, as in my relationship with my dad was like pretty much like it's hard for me to admit this, but he was kind of like the primary caretaker because my mom worked a lot. My grandma lived with us, but like he was the parent that was there. And I felt a lot from him. I felt a lot of judgment. I felt like my emotions were dismissed a lot. Uh, and I think very early on, I recognized that kind of comparison coming in. Like if I can scan everything in my environment, all of my thoughts, all my feelings, everything going on here, and I can create a judgment about it, then I can do something about it. And I won't be rejected or told that I'm wrong or told that I'm bad. I don't know if that answers your question. Wait, what was your question? Oh man.
Katie, I love talking with you so much. I don't remember my question. Yeah. Oh, I said what's underneath of that. That's all. But you did great answering
Okay.
it. Okay, cool. So your dad, you spent a lot of time with him because your mom worked. Your dad was taking care of you and you noticed judgment from him. You noticed that he dismissed emotions, and you could feel comparison coming in.
Mhm.
And that makes so much sense to me what you said about how information was coming into your brain and you were trying to make a judgment and make sense of it. And that's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
That's how our brains are wired to work. And that serves us really well, especially when we're aligning those things with love,
Mm.
just like you're
Mm.
on the process of doing.
Mm.
Like when you read the Bible or you experience God in an encounter, that's information coming into your brain. And so for you to be able to make a judgment call, oh, I think God likes me. Oh, God shows up when I invite him in. Oh, I actually think maybe he was the creator of light. Like if your brain is able to make judgments, it's a good thing and it should remain a role that your brain plays. But when you're collecting information about a perfect God, you're only going to get judgments of love and judgments of truth and judgments of life. When earthly dad or any other human is the one giving you the information, your judgments could be flawed because your information was flawed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in doing that mindfulness practice, like on Sunday and Monday, the whole goal of it was like, hey, like to separate out judgment. I'm not going to judge this thought. I'm not going to judge this emotion or feeling. And it was difficult to get into it, but it also made me realize I haven't ever really felt safe just to be me, to have whatever feelings come up, to have whatever thoughts come up, to act in whatever way I act and be loved. And like that's really what all of this comes down to. And going through my story of pain, like I understand why that is. Um, I really want to go back to your question though, original question, because I feel like I just can't remember what it was. If anyone remembers, can you put it in the chat? Because I'm like, I feel like there was something there. Um,
Well, we were talking about how the coping mechanisms isn't comprehensive enough to give you the rest that I think that you're intrinsically really needing and going after when you go to check out. And I just asked you to sit with that feeling of being overrun to see
okay.
what's underneath of that.
Yeah, I think that being overrun, then if I can talk on that further, it's that like I feel like I've been in fight or flight my whole life. It doesn't feel safe just to let my guard down. And that's where I literally feel overrun by information. I feel overrun. It was so interesting. My mom was over yesterday and I've invited her into my process and she's been able in the last few months to like actually like walk in it with me. Like she's been like learning validation and validating me. It's been beautiful. But yesterday I explained this to her and she was just like, she kind of was sitting there like not giving me any kind of reaction or response. And I'm like reading her and then I was like, you seem like you're upset or something. And she's like, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this because that sounds completely exhausting that you're having to make a judgment about every thought and feeling and emotion. Like that sounds completely exhausting. And I was like, yeah, it is. Like it was actually really validating. Um, but that's where I feel overrun. I feel just really overrun and unsafe that like if I let myself just be, I'll get taken out. Like something bad will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like apps running in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even explained it that way. It's like when I'm in a trigger, it's like I'm sitting in these lies. It's like a virus got into my computer system, into my operating system. There's a
Yeah.
virus in all the apps. And it's just I need to be rebooted.
Yeah. Well, you have full permission to be rebooted if that's honestly, genuinely something that you need. I think that there's real potential that being rebooted could actually give you the rest that
Mm.
part of you is really needing. So just put a pin in that for yourself and chew on that. It's obviously not simple for a mom and a wife just to run away and go escape into the mountains for a couple of days. But if you could chew on the word reboot for yourself and dream a little bit about that, I think that that could be helpful for you.
Okay.
And then you shared a belief, a judgment that I have been in fight or flight mode my entire life. And I just want you to know, because I'm recently processing through this, that judgment just got dismantled and proven wrong because of your day on Monday.
Was that my sorry, you completely froze. I don't know if that was my connection this time. I'm sorry. You said you shared a belief and then you kind of cut off. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I can. Am I back now?
You're back now.
Okay, cool. Thanks for your patience. I have no idea whose connection it is, but okay, cool. You shared a belief that you have been in fight or flight mode. Put your hand up if I freeze again. Okay. You shared a belief that you've been in fight or flight mode your entire life. And that judgment, that belief, I'm using those words interchangeably, that got completely dismantled and proven wrong because of your day that you had on Monday.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah. And it's so fascinating because I have been carrying in a lot of beliefs around men and dating. And recently I have stepped into dating.
Hmm.
And based on someone that I just recently met, all of my judgments about men are being proven wrong by one example. One example. And that's the indicator that your judgments and your beliefs are not the firm foundation that God has for you. If they can crumble and be proven wrong that easily, they're not strong enough to build a life off of.
Wow. Wow. Well, and this is where this was my question from before that I wrote down. Um, so when I was in that triggered state yesterday, so okay, trying to be in that cool processing state like I was in on Monday, is that should I be striving for more of that? Like, is it avoid am I trying to avoid triggers? Like that's kind of what I'm recognizing. If I'm taking this thought captive and this feeling, and I'm literally just like, that's a thought, that's a feeling, that's an emotion, and I don't let myself go down that road, I almost feel, can I actually share another encounter I had with you on that?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I almost feel like I'm avoiding triggers. And then when I get sucked into a trigger, I feel like I failed the cool processing or whatever. So I don't know if I worded that right. Yeah. But so the encounter I had a couple days ago, I think it actually was on Monday. Um, I was starting midday, I was starting to kind of feel some things coming up, and I sat down and I did a mindfulness practice, and I got really like in that particular one, I think I was focusing on my breathing. And I noticed it was like 8 minutes long, and I noticed during it this anxiety, this pain in my chest, this anxiety coming up, and I was just like, okay, that's a feeling. That's a feeling. I noticed some thoughts. And the thoughts, and then connected to the feeling. I'm like, that's a thought. That's a feeling. Like I wasn't letting myself get run away with it. But at the same time, I said to God, because it was strong, I'm like, God, if that's something I need to check in with my heart about, please let me know after these 8 minutes are up. And so I did that, and like that feeling remained. And so it was like after I kind of made sure I was kind of in myself, I checked in with my heart and I was like, okay, heart, like, what's going on? Like, what do you want to tell me about? And she was like, I'm scared that you're gonna leave me behind. I'm scared that you're going to just be in the present all the time and I won't matter anymore. My pain won't matter anymore. Like my little girl thinks she is her pain, you know? And I just invited it was so cool, like, after doing the mindfulness, because I was really connected with myself, and I invited God, and I'm like, "God, like, what do you want me to know about this? Or can you come in and, like, be with my little girl?" And so I could see him he approached my chair that I was sitting on, and he placed one hand over my chest where I felt that pain and pressure and anxiety, and it was literally like I closed my eyes and I was just this gateway. Like he just went right through me to that little girl in my heart because I was literally envisioning her in like a cage. He went right into her, right into that cage with her. And he was just like, Katie, your pain matters. I'm going to sit with you in this. Like it matters. And then his other hand he placed on my head. And he was just like, so he was in two places at once, which was pretty crazy. Um, but yeah, that's like part of so it was beautiful because then I was actually able to move on with the day knowing, hey, heart, like I'm not leaving you behind. Like Jesus is with you now. But then it's like the next day I'm right back to it again and feel in this belief that like she's being it's like if I don't keep giving attention to the pain and trying to figure all this out and whatever, then she's being left behind. I don't know. So
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. You're having some incredibly beautiful encounters with God. Um, and I think that it's really encouraging to be hearing these things. Um, it's really encouraging. I yeah, I think that there are probably some judgments inside of triggers. Um, you mentioned earlier that you you're managing your thoughts and your emotions and you're doing a lot of self-care things, and then when you find yourself getting sucked into a trigger, that feels like you're failing. So that feels like a judgment or a belief. And then also too, if you don't hurry up and get this, then you'll be left behind. That more so sounds like a fear and like a little girl who's talking, but it's coming through the form of a belief and possibly a judgment.
and I think the second one is more it's more like she's saying to me, if I'm not triggered constantly, if I'm not feeling what she's feeling, if I'm not operating out of her, then she's left behind. That's like what, yeah,
Yeah.
which makes me feel like I literally have to be like a 5-year-old all the time and it's exhausting. Like, you know,
Yeah, and you might not want that. Like you have permission to go. What I think I want to charge you with today, Katie, is to be noticing those beliefs and those judgments. We uncovered a couple together today, and I'm sure that you have been collecting them because you're really self-aware, which is a fantastic tool. Um, but just to be looking at some of those beliefs and just see if there's evidence that's been proving them wrong. And just be the little what's the term? I guess devil's advocate. It's probably this is probably a bad audience for that metaphor, but whatever. Like um if you could be the opposing audience or whatever. I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
Can you can you prove your beliefs wrong with what's really true and happening in your world? And I'll just leave you with a quick example before we wrap up here. But like your husband did come home from work and he did help you put your kids to bed. So if there are any beliefs in there that you're all alone in this or that you don't have any help, I'm curious if there's actually some evidence to push back on some of those things. And you won't find pushback on all of them. This is not a homework assignment or like a reprogramming that I'm charging you with. It's a curiosity. It's, oh, is there could there actually be some wiggle room with this belief. Am I actually experiencing years and years of being in fight or flight, but I also had a day without any of that? Could I hold both of those things? You're almost like graduating your belief systems and your judgments because it's no longer going to be one way or the other, on or off, black or white. You're going to start to see maturity and more comprehension come in. Yes, I spent a lot of my life in fight or flight survival mode, but I'm also experiencing days of rest and freedom. And I'm also experiencing radical encounters with God. If you can merge some true statements, see what new beliefs get developed out of those. Yeah, Hannah, thank you. That's a great image. The defense attorney, um, yeah,
Mm,
versus the whatever other attorney. Okay. Does that
yeah.
feel helpful for you, Katie? I hope that there's an invitation in that and not just a new task for you, but I think that it could be a fun exploration process for you.
Yeah, it actually reminded me of that. I think it was the parable of the sower or something, whatever was like mentioned in the call yesterday.
Mhm.
That's what that reminds me of, that like both the weeds and the wheat were present at the same time.
Yeah,
But anyway, I was just
well,
really
that's
curious.
great.
Actually, I'll go back and listen to the recording, but if you quickly, if you had anything written down, like the beliefs that you did notice, I'd like to just write them down, if you don't mind.
Yes. I have been in fight or flight mode my entire life. If I'm not taking care of myself and I get sucked into a trigger, then I'm failing. And if I don't figure this out, I'm going to get left behind. I think there were a couple more, but those are the ones I have written down.
Okay.
And just for you ladies, if you weren't on the call with us yesterday, Katie's referring to Matthew 13, the parable of the weeds. And the farmer came and sowed. I went after and read this because it was so impactful, that word from Jessica that she shared. The farmer went in and sowed good seeds, and the enemy came in and sowed bad seeds. And both weeds and wheat grew up, which is how the farmer knew that the enemy had been present on his crop of field. And his servants asked him, "What should we do with this?" And the farmer said, "Let them both grow until it's time for the harvest. And when we will harvest, we'll separate the weeds from the wheat and we'll burn the weeds." But he let them both grow instead of demolishing the whole field and just calling it a wash. Instead of just giving up on the crop and the good seeds that he planted, he let them grow until it was time for harvest. He stayed in his normal role. Nothing about what the farmer did changed. He planted seeds, he let them grow, and then he harvested them. The enemy's work came in and it didn't knock him off of what he was doing, but he knew that he needed to separate them when it would be time for the harvest. And so, yeah, Katie, awesome connection to what's going on. There are going to be weeds and wheat present, but you don't have to change how you care for the land.
Hmm. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is a lot to chew on. Thank you for your time
Yeah.
and your coaching.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. You're doing phenomenal. And I'm so happy to hear about your encounters. I'm so happy to hear about your days of cool processing. I'm happy to hear about your mom's engagement in your process. And you're doing it, girl. You're just totally coming alive. And it's a pleasure to watch. Thank you for sharing. Hmm, awesome. Well, Kristen, I have you next.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Jenny. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Wow, Katie, that was really powerful. I was really impacted by that. Oh, You are just so brave for sharing. You inspire me so much. Um, I just need to maybe to share some of the triggers that I've been walking through, mostly last week, but also this week. Um, and I don't know where to begin because it feels like a lot. But
Mm.
um, I've been doing the self love challenge on Facebook, which has been amazing for me. Um, I do get really triggered because I'm posting these very vulnerable things that only me and God know about. The things that I'm saying in my brain, I'm all of a sudden speaking in front of a lot of women. And I think that's triggering me in ways I didn't expect, which is normal. And I'm fine with it. I'm coming to terms with it. But it's affecting my sleep. It's affecting how I'm responding and being as a friend and a daughter, and now I find myself um, loving time spent with my ex on the phone, where I totally shut that door and I'm moving in this positive direction. But here I am triggered again. And it's like I can't deal with it. So I start going into patterns that feel safe, that isn't safe. But that's sort of like my week. But what I would really love coaching on is the people pleasing Kristen. It is driving me nuts, and it's making me furious that every time someone has a need, or I make it up in my brain that someone has a need, I just go out of my way. And that's a lovely quality. I'm not saying it's not wonderful, but it's not wonderful if it comes out of a place of people pleasing or I need your validation. It just it makes me so sad to be in this place of living, because that's essentially what I feel like I am doing right now. I'm living out of this place of how can I get validation right now? How can I fill this void that I'm feeling? How can I please other people in my life so that I feel better? And it's not always that way. It's a part of who I am. I know that it's a part of who I am, that I want to help people. But I do want to be very self-aware, where I go, yes, it's partly because I want to help people, but it's also because I'm very codependent, and I'm also have fear of rejection, and all these things are working together in this like mush of things. So I'll just share a quick example, and then I think we can go into coaching. A friend of mine, we had a life group thing with the church, where we have a couple of friends and we call every other Tuesday to just pray together, which is really wonderful. But one of my friends, she was really triggered because she has a lot of trauma related to her birthday. So she was just saying, next coming Tuesday is my birthday. And if we're going to do this thing online, I don't want to be there. And it came out of nowhere. And my other friend, she was like, no, we're not going to do online. We can meet up in person, depends on COVID, but of course we're going to celebrate your birthday. That was her response. My response was heartbroken. I was heartbroken that that's what she thought of me, that I didn't have the decency to even think about her birthday coming up in 2 weeks. And that's a horrible place to be in, because then I feel like, oh my goodness, who else has a birthday in March or May or June or July or August? I need to buy gifts for everyone right now. And it becomes this cycle of almost like abusing myself. And I just can't do it anymore. So I actually said on the call, hey, her name, you didn't communicate with me that this was what you were thinking. So it's very hard for me to be the friend that you're seeking. if you could communicate with me that you really don't want to be alone on your birthday, of course I will show up. I would love nothing more, but we didn't have that conversation and I can't read your mind. So I'm happy that I did that for my heart because I got really sad and really triggered. So that's a big step. Um, and she responded well, but she was very in her own trauma. And I even when we left the call, I started recording a prayer for her. I sent her, let's meet this weekend. And I just feel like I just feel like, am I giving? And then she just said like, "Yeah, sure." And I'm like, I don't know. That triggers me because I feel like even when I do give a lot, still not enough. And I end up getting really hurt and I kind of want to protect my own heart because it really hurts. Yeah, sorry that was really long, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you shared that. You're so cute. I'll just give a quick example of this massively powerful communication that I had.
Yeah,
Like it's no big deal.
I know.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
That's a majorly huge deal that you advocated for your heart in such a way. I'm really, really happy and proud, and I feel encouraged. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And, it's good that it was well received. Maybe she didn't like quite extend herself in response. Maybe she was a little shorter than you were hoping, but um yeah, I'm grateful that it was well received, and I think that you should keep doing things like that to prioritize your heart and to advocate for yourself. When she first shared that thought about her birthday and like the first initial wound in that, when I heard you say it, I was like, "Oh, she's just showing you her pain. She's showing you how scared she is that she's not going to get her needs met on her birthday. She's showing you how high stakes this day of the year is for her, and I think her pain is still seeping through in the way that she's responding."
Yeah.
Does that feel true to you that she was coming into the conversation showing you her pain?
Yeah, and that's the crazy part of it because I know that in my heart, but still it's like I can't go around being hurt by everyone else's pain and their way of communicating because what she was doing is what most people would do in her situation. It's communicate her hurt and her trauma and what she's going through. But I guess it's the fear of rejection, the fear of being misunderstood, where I haven't had the chance to pour love into her, where it's just that judgment of like, you're not going to show up no matter what. So I'm going to make that assumption. And I feel like I've shown her nothing but that I would be here for her. And I guess it's just the hurt of wearing my heart on my sleeve. And I just can't do that in that way anymore. And I
Yeah.
don't know what it looks like to be kind with boundaries and giving, but also have boundaries. I guess I just can't find that fine line between the two.
Yeah. Yeah, I so hear you. How many of you ladies are resonating with this? Yeah, absolutely. Same. We got some cameras coming on just to show you. Yes. I think that you are well on your way to finding that fine line. You're really hot. You're really close to finding that fine line. you're positioned right in the place where you need to be to find it. Um, I think you're trying to balance having loving boundaries, but also giving love away to others. And also curious, like, do I wear my heart on my sleeve? Like, where do I put it on display? And man, I think that you are so close to, like, if you're not already just walking on top of that fine line and operating from that balanced place. Because what I heard you do is give really loving boundaries. Hey, I actually want to show up for you on your birthday, but I had no idea how, and I will never be able to read your mind. So, what could help me show up for you as a friend is if you tell me that you don't want to be alone on your birthday. All of the things that you communicated is those loving boundaries, and you didn't take your heart off the table. You didn't retract to love. You didn't punish her in any way, in any unhealthy way. It propelled you into loving her by recording that prayer and figuring out how you could make time over the weekend. So communicating really well, not taking your heart and retracting your love from the table, and it like just that conversation propelling you into how to love her, that's probably a good thing. It's probably a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what makes me sad though is that I can tell that I'm keeping this. I don't really want to say this because I don't really want to be aware of it, but I have to. It's like I'm keeping this bar tab of people in my life. It's like this backpack, like, because I was talking to my ex last night and he was sharing some things that happened when we were together that he's finally realizing was really wrong on his side, which was really good for me. I didn't make him feel bad about it, but it was good to hear someone else say, "Hey, I was there and I can see that that wasn't right of me." But it's like I can't, it's like I have this bag of like his bag of like things that happened that he did to me and I just can't forgive. Like I can't, like I hold grudges and I don't want to, and I can feel myself holding grudges over this friend that is going through a really hard time and doesn't deserve me having grudges. She deserves me to forgive right away and be right in there with her. But I'm wondering why. Like, is it because I feel like I've been so hurt the last year that I'm tired of it because I haven't put up boundaries at all. So I think it feels safe to keep this like bag of stuff that happened so that at least I can explain to myself that it isn't for no reason that you're feeling this way. It isn't out of a mean intent for the person, but it's almost like I need to keep track. Um, that sounds really weird, but I want to learn how to forgive. Like that's a principle in the Bible. That's like a huge thing of being a Christian. And I just don't want to be that person that hold grudges. But it feels like it's hard for me to forgive when I always get so hurt all the time. And it's like nobody kind of cares about that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, this is really real, and I'm so grateful that you are bringing this to us today, Kristen. I think that holding that bag and keeping that bar tab is okay for a season. I think that it is 100% okay for your heart, for your whole self to understand, oh my gosh, I give this much and I receive this much. Just to be aware of the discrepancies and the disjointedness of giving and receiving. Honestly, that all people pleasers probably have a tab of.
Mm.
You will notice sorry, my dog is agreeing. You'll notice that that bag is going to crush you at some point. And when you're at that point, then it's time to let go. And this isn't true for every single person, and this isn't true for every single example of baggage, but it is absolutely okay for you to understand the significance and the weight of having an unmet need, of being a good lover, but not having good lovers. It is totally okay to pause in that and to feel the weight of that bag, but it will get heavy enough that it'll crush you. And when you get to that point, you gotta bury it. You gotta drop it. And he'll help you. He will help you forgive. He will help you drop that bag. But it's okay to hold it. It's okay to feel the weight of it until you're ready to not have it anymore.
It's very heavy though. Yeah.
I want you to close your eyes and picture the bag or the bar tab, whatever feels more relevant to you. And I want you to picture the woman who is keeping track of that tab or carrying the bag. I want you to ask that woman what she wants to do next.
Um, it's like a feeling of like I want to put other things in here. I don't want
Yeah.
to carry just this. It feels like it's a lot, and there's no room for anything else.
Yep. What are some different things that you wish there was room to carry? What would you fill it with if the space was there?
Um, it's just this like it just feels like what about all the good? Like um all the good that you experienced with that person or with that thing or and all the things about yourself. There's no room for your acceptance and your compassion and love.
Yeah.
It's like it's like that it has like become my identity to be wounded or hurt by people because I'm not strong in myself or stepping up for myself. Like I identify with this person carrying this huge burden by all the mistreating and all the bad relationships and abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. That girl doesn't go anywhere at the end of this story. We don't throw her out like the baby in the bathwater. She stays and she actually still carries a burden. In his word, it says, "My burden is easy My yoke is easy, my burden is light. The word does not say there's no more burden. It says the burden that still remains is light. And you will still carry a bag, but when it is filled with the right things, it won't be heavy, but it will be big. And that bag will maybe even continue to grow. You can fill it with more things, but it's more things that still equal it feeling light. And so that girl's not going anywhere. Her purpose, her ability to carry her strength, her capacity, her bag, her bar tab, they don't go away. They just get to be refreshed. And when the right things are there, it'll feel light. And so just knowing that she gets to continue carrying a significant and weighty burden. And by weighty, I just mean like wholesome and hearty, like it's significant, it's important. Knowing that she still gets to do that, what's one thing that you can get rid of to create room for something light?
Ah, like just removing it from my identity, and also I just see myself, or I just see this person carrying this huge thing, uh just letting go. It was almost like a responsibility to hold it that no one put on her, but she just felt like she had to. And then just removing, uh little by little, um to make room. It's almost like she's saying, like, I didn't know that I was worth more than carrying this. That's the feeling I'm getting.
Wow, yeah, that's good. Good communication and connection happening there. Do you feel ready to lay down some of the responsibility and the connection and ties to your identity that this bag has created?
Yeah,
Do you need a helper or do you feel okay to do it on your own?
I think I need a helper.
Yeah. Who comes to mind first as an ideal helper?
Yes.
Yeah. Just want you to invite him in and tell him what you're ready to do.
um, somehow this burden that I'm carrying this big, I just see like a Santa Claus kind of bag, like those movies when you were little, and he put like Santa Claus put his like big gift baskets like in the bag, and it was just like bigger than his thing, and that's what I'm seeing, and I just see this is not it's not big for me like for Jesus it isn't big at all. Um, but he cares deeply about every little thing. Like he doesn't just, when you tip a bag on the head and just everything falls out. It's like he treats every little thing with care. And I'm just watching him do it. Um, I just asked him what he would like to give me in return when he took the bag. And I just felt like there is more room, like more space and room for me to be the person that I want to be, not what the baggage or the people that have like, put me through lots of trauma and their own preconceived ideas of who I am and who I'm supposed to be. Like I get to like redefine it.
Yeah, beautiful. What else do you need from Jesus in this moment?
Yeah, just a place of knowing that I don't have to be this person that I've clearly made up myself to be for everyone, and that I can come to him for those all the different places I'm not being met.
Yeah. As we've been talking, Kristen, about this burden that's supposed to be light, just keep getting a picture of a big hot air balloon. And I almost feel it as an invitation for you to leave the bag on the ground and step into the hot air balloon with God, with Jesus. Because you get to go on an exploration and a discovery of who you are without that bag. knowing that he cared for every single thing that he removed from it. Learning how to trust him to clean up the mess of that bag. But that you get to be separate from it. You get to step into the hot air balloon and go as far away from it as you'd like. And it's a cool picture because it's something that's very grand and large and beautiful, but it's also light.
Yeah.
And in fact, you can't take heavy bags with you when you go in a hot air balloon. There's no suitcases allowed there. There's maybe a picnic basket and a bottle of champagne. That's it. Snacks.
Obviously.
Yeah.
That really validates my heart because I always feel like I have to bring, it's almost like I feel like I have to bring a lot of props when I'm with people because it's not enough just being me. So just the fact that he wants me to not bring that is very special to my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. You have thought that you've needed embellishment, that just you is not enough. There's a real invitation in here just to see the simple goodness and the simple nature of who God created you to be.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah. Ugh, thank you for sharing that, Jenny.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing this to us. And I know you mentioned some triggers this week and just this version of yourself that you're really tackling. But I hope that this invitation from God, this self discovery process of who you are without the props, without the bells and whistles, without the right thoughts and right responses. I even just picture like just you with just your heart on your sleeve. Like that's you using your own props. Like what is that version of Kristen like? And I would just love for you to go on that process with him and just let him help you explore and remain curious to that.
Yeah. Um, just before you go, can I just ask you just one quick question? Because I feel very protective right now because I don't want to go into, like, we're talking about people pleasing and I need to be this person in order to be validated. Do you have any thoughts on, like, practically, just quickly, how I can, like, stop myself from jumping into that pattern that I so lovingly wants to step into, but I know it's hurting myself?
Yeah, I think I do. Let me see if my brain can switch gears fast enough. Our our operating system, every human has it, but it's comprised of our thoughts, our actions, our words, and our emotions. And all four of those things point back to what our belief systems are. And so you can learn more. And what I think I have for you as a practical is just to grow in self awareness of your operating system, specifically through the avenue of your actions.
Mm.
So if you have this conversation with your friend or you talk to someone in need and you immediately go into action, That's fine. But take a moment to reflect back on those and be like, okay, I had this conversation, this need was presented, I went into this list of actions in response. What are those actions pointing me back to? What's beneath those actions? What belief systems are underneath of there? Why
Mhm.
did I choose to go to those actions? And you can do it by any of the four entry points, your thoughts, your words, your actions, and your emotions. Why did I have those thoughts? Why did I have those emotions? Why did I say those words? Why did I do those actions? You can be learning about the belief systems that are driving those four things as just a practical way to grow in self awareness. And similarly to what I was coaching Katie on earlier, of just like some of those beliefs are flawed because they were based on flawed information that was coming in from a young age. And so they might not be what you want to stand on. They might not be a firm foundation enough to build your life off of. So if there are some beliefs in there, for example, some of my people pleasing beliefs that I have uncovered through my own process of self awareness is I can't have a moment to be okay unless everyone around me is okay. I can't be filled with joy if everyone around me is sad. I can't be connected to peace if I'm in a stressful scenario. It doesn't fit and I'm wrong. Those are some of my beliefs that I was noticing, but I actually chose to adjust them and to adapt them and to seek God's counsel on them because I liked feeling peace and I liked feeling joy and I hated being hijacked by the circumstances around me. I hated leaving my natural state of peace and joy to accommodate someone else because accommodating someone else always typically looked like being hectic and chaotic and shortcoming and never meeting the standards.
This is
Does that
so
feel helpful for you?
Yeah, this is so good. I love the conversation. When you say, because I love that, that's exactly what I need to do. And when you do that though, what is the next step? Or is that looking too far ahead? Because once you become self-aware, how do you implement that so that you see, do you know what I'm trying to say? Because I feel
Like
like, yeah, sorry.
after you discover the beliefs? Yeah. Um, yeah, a really good thing to do next, and I don't think it's jumping too far ahead. I think you're great to ask this. Once you uncover the beliefs, I think um, continuing on a little bit more self awareness. Okay, who taught me that? When did I first adopt that belief? Whose voice spoke that over my life? Just be collecting more information about where that belief first came
Mm,
from. Maybe even like, why does that feel true to me?
yeah.
You could be learning more about like, oh, how often does this belief show up in my life? These are just more self awareness questions. And then when you have gathered more information, say, for example, you learn, oh, that's the voice of my mom, and she actually didn't love well. I actually don't want to model the way I love after the way that my mom loved because I don't think that that's the example I want to lead my life off of. God, can you give me a better example? And just kind of exchange those beliefs in an exchange with God. Like, hey, I thought that this was true. God, is it true? Do you have something that's more true?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I love that you brought that up because yeah, that would really help because I'm feeling my heart going, "Ugh, you're not protecting me at all." And I feel like she's like, "Ah, can you fight a little bit like for me?" So that makes a lot of sense because I've been trying to be very curious instead of judging what's coming up. And I think that I've been doing a good job just looking at it from like a very like that kind of perspective, which has been actually kind of cool. So I think I love being self-aware and I love that kind of thing, but I think what we talked about really helped because I think this bag of like what we talked about has really kept me holding back because it feels like it's a worth thing for me.
Yeah.
I don't do this because I don't feel worthy of not carrying this bag or not stepping up or standing up for myself. So, yeah, I'm just very thankful, Jenny. Thank you so much. It was really good.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. That was really great.
Thank you.
So good. All right, you guys. Looks like we have time for one more question today, but I'd love to hear from you in the chat how you're doing. Any good takeaways that you guys are jotting down? Would love to know what's standing out for you. And while you guys are throwing those in the chat, Sylvia, I'll have you next.
Hi, Jenny. Wow,
Hey,
it's so nice to see you again. And I just
likewise.
wanted to say that when I was hearing about other people's sharings, I just feel like all the ladies here are so brave. We're fighting one battle after another. And this is so good that we are not giving up. Yeah, so last week I shared that I'm trying to get out of emotional pain left by a previous relationship where the person was really kind, but he was not a committed partner. He was never sold on the idea of having a committed, exclusive relationship. So I felt throughout the 1 year, I felt I was really not seen or heard or recognized in the public. And I right now started seeing that he might be the person God sent me to help me connect to my emotions and just to love me in that season. So I'm accepting this. But I also identified that I have this tendency of looking to someone else to take away my uncomfortable feelings and make me feel okay. But I should recognize that I'm the only person that can make myself happy and in my walk with God. So I have been working really hard to learn more about why I'm feeling those things and how can I really get out of that pain to feel really free and powerful. Then there was a trigger that took place this Monday, and then I have been stuck there for the past 2 days, and I really need help to unwire everything that happened on that day. So this is what happened. On Monday, I talked to this guy again, and I realized that through all the work that I have done in the past few weeks in this program, I don't feel that powerless in front of him. I was able to articulate how I felt about certain things he did to me. And I was also not triggered by his misunderstandings. I was able to hear him out and then express my ideas. So these two parts were great. But then he told me one thing that just completely kind of knocked me off a cliff. He told me his life was doing well, his work is good, and he met a girl that he thinks he really enjoys hanging out with. And immediately I was overtaken by anger because last year in October, when his attitude took a downturn, he told me he doesn't want a girlfriend. He could not do it at this life stage. And then now he was saying this, and I just feel like the whole time you have been looking, at least this January and February, and then now you're telling me this, and I just feel like men are liars, and all those things just overtook me. And I completely understand he has his decisions to make, and it's totally fine for him to do that. But I just can't control how I felt. So that was pain. No, that was anger to begin with, and then I also noticed that there was fear. It's not jealousy as much as fear, because I was afraid of being trapped in darkness alone. anymore. I feel like people are moving on to better lives, and I'm still there. I'm so afraid. I also detect that there is the need to be to feel wanted, to feel loved. But I know that from the bottom of my heart, I know that no one could make me feel that way. I should depend on myself instead of attaching my values to someone else's behavior. So I'm just wondering, what can I do to process this trigger? I mean, compared to before, I don't really know what is happening. Now I'm able to name a few feelings that I sensed. And after I left that conversation, I knew that it's not jealousy. I know that I'm not like got good enough. I know that it's not that I'm not good enough. Everybody's different. I can see my strength, but I just can't move on. Those two sentences act like a curse in my head. And then I was like, I knew it. I knew it's gonna happen. And see, and then I don't know how to move on and focus on something else that really make me happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so sorry that this is happening. I know that that was an impactful relationship for you, and it would be really hard to learn that he has found someone else. But at the same time, I'm blown away by your ability to articulate what's going on in your inner world. I don't know that Sylvia a year ago or 2 years ago would have been able to have this conversation. And so I'm really, really excited to see that. You should be really proud of yourself. Yeah, and you did a really good job articulating the trigger. That's an incredible first step. It sounds like you could recognize, okay, I'm having anger, I'm feeling anger, and underneath of that feeling is a fear that I'm going to be trapped in darkness alone. And maybe even deeper than that, there's a need that I want to feel loved and I want to feel wanted. And I believe that that's deeper because if you knew and were aligned with how loved you are and with how wanted you are, you wouldn't have the fear that you'd be trapped in darkness alone. That thought would just bounce right off and not come in. And so the way to diffuse the trigger, since you have followed down to the root, you've gotten really deep in this root. You've done incredible work in self-awareness. Now that you're here and you're at the base of the root, there's this unmet need or unfulfilled desire or like a void, I guess is an appropriate word, where you want to feel loved and you want to feel wanted. Does that feel like it has been around for a while in your life? Could you recognize that unmet need?
I didn't feel that way before I met this person because in my life, even my parents divorced when I was in middle school, both of them treated me as the most important thing in their lives. So I never felt I lacked anything, materially speaking or emotionally speaking. And then my friends, I have a lot of great friends that supported me, but I was really protective of my heart. So I never really get into this kind of situation where the guy is not fully committed and I still wanted to try. So that was the first time I gave myself permission because I felt something different. I felt I was connected to the vulnerabilities in my heart that I was trying to steer away from. I'm the kind of person who prefers to not listen to sad songs when I'm feeling just a little bit down because I'm afraid that it will drag me to a deep hole that I couldn't get out of myself.
Yeah, you're so precious. And I love this too. So cool. There are areas of your life where you do feel full of love and you did feel prioritized and considered by the people that you have relationship with. And that's incredible. And then it just sounds like you wanted it romantically with this man and you were putting yourself out there and being vulnerable. And he is not able to fill that that need, or he's choosing not to, or he's incapable of doing it, whatever the reason is, the love isn't coming in from that avenue.
Right. And so he said that he became aware of our differences in what we want in relationships. He thinks we won't be able to have maybe like children because of how expensive children are. And then when he mentioned that, I just felt like it's a lie. If you really want it, you make it happen. So if you don't want it with me, then just say it. But we're not even there yet. So I don't know what he's trying to run away from. And there was just a lot of confusion. So through that 1 year, I'm just constantly up and down and feeling unseen or sometimes feel powerless. And I know that this relationship exposed all my insecurities in my life. So I think this is a really good opportunity for me to learn and grow. And now I'm just trying to expose myself to as many opportunities as possible. But I just can't think of why everything got exposed at this time through this one person.
Yeah, dang it. That's the question of the hour. If we could only know why we get triggered, I I think that we are wildly out of control of that. Well, the timing of when we're triggered, unfortunately. I think that we do have power over the roots of pain that get pressed on in the triggers, and you guys are doing the work to become powerful over those roots. But man, the wind could blow the wrong way and it could press my trigger buttons, and it's so freaking annoying. That's just the nature of doing life and relationship with other humans.
Yeah,
Um,
and I
yeah.
think there is one when you were okay. So in the previous coaching session, I noticed that you mentioned about the people pleasing tendencies. I never would call myself people pleasing, but I tend to prioritize my family or my friends' needs above mine because I thought I was called as a Christian to love my neighbors as how we love ourselves. But I always omitted the part love myself. I'm just growing to learn how to prioritize my feelings and take care of them myself instead of letting other people make me feel okay. So maybe this is why I feel so hurt because previously people were responding. But then this time I have such a high expectation for this person. I have done so many things that I have never done before, and then it failed on me.
Man, so hear you. And your process is beautiful. If you could include that part of the scripture that a lot of people forget, myself included, to love your neighbor as yourself, if that part were integrated and part of the commission for you, what would it look like for you to love yourself?
There are certain things I haven't done well for myself is that I wasn't very patient. I can see there are areas of opportunities. I mean, I love dancing, but when I dance, I feel a greater level of stress than happiness because I was so mindful of sometimes how bad I executed in comparison with other people that I look up to. I also wish that I could have given myself more unconditional love. I'm always trying to learn more things, try to be competitive, try to be good in everything I do, because I think only by doing that I could remain to be loved and seen and prioritized in personal relationships with others. And also to really not lower my, to really not compromise. A lot of times I don't want to do certain things for other friends, but I did it anyway because I thought they are important for me and friends should prioritize accordingly. And then I did certain things that I didn't want to do then they didn't appreciate that. So I got the resentment in me. So I started respecting my willingness, my capacity more than before. And I'm happier. I feel more in control. So that was the progress. But I have had that pattern to look to this person in particular for that unconditional love and patience. He would tell me it takes time, you're doing really good. And those things should have been said to me by myself. So theoretically, I could, they all make sense, but I don't know what I can do to get out of that trigger.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. What you can do to get out of that trigger is to fill up the void that exists at the base of this root, that I want to feel loved and I want to feel wanted. Pouring love and pouring affection and pouring attention into the base of that root is what's going to diffuse the trigger, the anger. It'll just stop creating that byproduct and symptom if you can pour love into the very root of that pain. And what we teach on in the course is through encounters to figure out what little girl version of yourself is trapped at the base of that root. What little girl is the first one who experienced the belief that you aren't going to be loved or wanted? And for you, she might not be that young. It sounds like you were well loved by your parents and you were prioritized by them. It might be 1 year ago you who's sitting at the base of that root. So that is something that I just want to give you to take with you as you continue on your self-awareness process in this. Who is involved at the base of that root? Because that version of yourself experienced life that was capable of telling her that she doesn't have love and that she isn't wanted. Something she experienced, it could have just been this relationship with this man. But those circumstances and those experiences, they proved this belief to be true, that you don't have love and that you aren't wanted. And she's the one who needs the love and to feel wanted the most. So if you can find a way to encounter her and give her those things, that would be really helpful at diffusing the trigger. Does that make sense?
Yes. When I think it has something to do with my experience in Costa Rica, where I worked for 1.5 years. I had some amazing experiences there, but because of culture difference, people there are really quick to say yes to everything, but they never deliver. So when friends say, I'm gonna be there for your party, for your birthday party, a lot of people would stood up on me. And it's not only guys, but girls too. So to someone who really values commitments, that was really heartbreaking in the beginning. I had to learn to develop plan B at all times so that I can make sure I have someone to hang out with when I want it. So that of course gave me that feeling, gave me that insecurity that maybe when I need somebody, no one would be there. And I have to always watch out for myself.
Yeah.
So when I first came back to United States, I was really careful about whom to hang out with, and I hate certain behaviors. It almost functioned like a PTSD. When I met this person, I kind of felt he is completely different from those people I tried to run away from. And then because of the safety I felt, I just poured all my needs to him, and I kept getting from him instead of trying to heal myself and fill the void through the love from friends, family, or from God.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you like to lean into that together? Okay. I'd love for you to close your eyes and picture Sylvia, who was in Costa Rica. And just let me know when you can see her.
I can see her.
What do you notice about her demeanor?
She was happy most of the time, but sometimes she wondered whether she was not good enough, so people overlooked the appointment with her. She often left wondering what happened. Why didn't people show up?
Yeah, yeah. That would have been really tough.
She had to learn. But from the bottom of her heart, she knew that if she manages to navigate through that difficulty, that misunderstanding, that the loneliness, she will be able to survive in any other cultural environment, and she will be able to get closer to her dreams.
Yeah. That's one way to go after your dreams is to figure out how to survive the circumstances that you're in. But I don't believe it's the only way. Is there a part of you that hopes that there's another way too?
Yes, I felt nobody could really feel my pain and tell me how to get out of that pain besides just swallowing it and pretend that I'm strong and it's not going to strike me down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm so sorry that you felt like you had to swallow your pain. I don't think that's how we're supposed to be fed.
Also, when I was growing up, my parents would tell me not to focus on the pain because it's not important. It's not going to help me achieve anything or to be competitive in that environment. So I really tried to escape from pain. And I had to face it myself when I was in Costa Rica. And when I came back to United States, I really wish I won't have to experience that anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And this relationship with this guy gave you a glimpse of that hope that maybe you wouldn't have to just swallow your pain, that maybe there was actually a space to process it and to work through it together.
Right.
Mm.
I love that comfort, that safety I felt when I was talking to him.
Mhm. That makes a lot of sense. I bet it was really comforting. I
But,
bet it was finally, I'm sorry, go ahead.
but I'm also afraid, what if one day somebody just takes that away?
Are you still connected with yourself in Costa Rica right now?
Yes.
I'd like for you to ask God where He is.
God took care of me when I really needed someone, when I was moving away, my best friends there, they went to my apartment at 3 a.m. and helped me clean up the whole apartment until 6 a.m. when I had to take out a flight. So he made sure that I was taken care of when I needed it.
Yeah. It sounds like you connect with God through other people. You could see his hand through their extended hands. You could see his ability to take care of you by their camaraderie and their support.
I can see that.
Yeah. And that's good. I think that he can be found there. I think that he can be found in others. All of us are just carriers of him. I love that he showed up for you that way.
Will he always be there?
You can ask him that. Do you feel like he's responding to your question?
I think he told me to be patient and wait. He said he will always be there, but there are times I have to be patient with everything that he has to uncover for me.
Wow. How's it feel for you to hear that?
It's hard.
Yeah. The patience part?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the weakness among, it's the worst weakness among all that I have.
Mm. Yeah. I don't know that you would know patience. I don't know that you got a good example of that as a kid. I don't know that you had models of patience around you. You had models of really good things, but I'm not sure if your parents were patient with you, at least with your emotions and your pain.
No, we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
I felt I just lacked that education of emotions and what they are and how I'm supposed to react to them. And after 25 years, then I suddenly got exposed to that huge waves of emotions. I didn't know what to do. And I just started learning to process them at the beginning of COVID with the help of another person.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm sorry for the lost time, but I'm so grateful for that experience that you were able to have at the beginning of COVID. I'm so grateful for the gift of whatever this relationship was supposed to bring you because it unlocked emotional freedom for you. It showed you that it's possible to not just swallow your pain as the only response to pain. And I'm not sure that you would know patience. I don't think you were signed up for that class as a kid. And as a kid, you don't get to pick your curriculum. You do in college sometimes, but you don't as a kid. You have to trust your parents to put you in front of the right teachers. You're dependent on them. That's just the way that God created things. We didn't come out as boss babies, we came out as just babies who need help.
That's so revealing, Jenny. I never knew that I missed that class.
We never got to hear from that teacher. But that teacher is around. God is a good teacher of patience. And it sounds like he brings people to you to connect with you, to see God through. So I trust him that he's going to bring you into the right classroom. He's going to help you learn patience for the first time.
Right. I really want to
Yeah.
being in the chair, be in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Instead of just being pulled away by whatever I was feeling inside. I felt so much more in control now compared to 2 or 3 months ago, where I had to just sleep on my bed and then crying, and I don't ever want to go back to that place. And I think with everything that I'm doing now, I want to go back.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, you're doing such a good job building rapport with your emotions, with your heart, with yourself, with your voice. You're doing a really, really good job. And you have a beautiful invitation from God to learn patience, to learn unconditional love, to learn more answers to your questions. When we connected with yourself a bit today, you went deeper, you went to younger ages, and this question came up, God, will you always be there? That's a deep-seated question that came to the surface today. That's phenomenal work that you just did. And he said, yes, I'll always be there. When you asked him the question, he answered. And you just get to take that with you. You get to let more of those deep-rooted questions come up. You don't ever have to stop asking him questions.
It just feels scary when you keep having those questions coming up and don't know how to find answers right away.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
you're so welcome. Keep holding those questions, even if they're scary, because what you're also getting to hold is patience. He's going to fill that up for you. He's going to teach you and lead you in that. You're doing a really, really good job.
Thank you, everyone, for your encouragement. Thank you, Jenny.
So good. You guys, you're amazing. Yeah. Yeah. This was so fun for me. Thank you so much for trusting me with parts of your story and parts of your process. Thank you for letting me speak into the most intimate and vulnerable parts of your process so far. Yeah. I love you guys, and I hope that you have a good rest of your day. What is today? Wednesday. So this was a triggers call, so we won't have a breakout room afterwards. But I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your afternoon, or I guess morning, depending on where you are. Thanks for being with us. Take care, guys. Bye.